Good morning from Tourism Optimizer platform. Today we have the privilege of interviewing Minister Manful, Minister of Political and Economic Affairs for the Ghana Embassy in Madrid. The reason for this interview is because tomorrow is Ghana National Day, very important in their history, which usually they celebrate with a cocktail, even inviting local government diplomats to celebrate this very important day in their history. Minister will give us more insights on their celebrations, and due to the pandemic situation this year, unfortunately, these celebrations won't be able to take place. So we've decided to shift these celebrations towards a more virtual stand to be able to offer visibility to everyone that is connected. We hope you enjoy this interview, and we give way to the Minister Manful from the Ghana Embassy in Madrid. Good morning, Minister. It's great to see you again. It's been a long time.
Yes, it has. Let me begin by congratulating you first. I know you became a father not too long ago.
Well, it really was just a year ago when all of this horrible situation started. Yes, I did become a father, so thank you very much for remembering that. It's been a strange year, but at the same time, for me at least, a happy one in that sense. So thank you for that appreciation.
Yes, and I hope the strange year will come to an end soon.
That's what I hope so too. I hope so too as well. Minister, the reason why we're talking today is because tomorrow is a very big day for you and your fellow Ghanaians. Tomorrow you're celebrating the Ghana National Day. It's been 64 years since you became independent from the British rule. Ghana is an example for other countries in the continent, in Africa, especially for its healthy democracy that it has had for the last 6 decades. So why don't you tell us today a bit about Ghana National Day, where it comes from, and how you usually celebrate it, and how will it be celebrated this year due to the tough situation we're living in?
Thank you very much, Eduardo, for firstly granting us this opportunity to maybe showcase our country on this very, very special day. Ghana is the first country south of the Sahara to obtain its independence from British colonial rule on the 6th of March 1957. And, it became firstly a source of pride to the people of Ghana. But even more importantly, it became a catalyst for the movement for independence on the African continent. So you find that Ghana became independent in the year 1957. Mm-hmm. And by the year 1960, the chains of colonial domination started coming off. You have a lot of African countries also becoming independent. So in that regard, in that context, Ghana's independence is very, very significant. And, it hasn't been smooth sailing since we became independent. But primarily, I will say that we have proven to the world that indeed the African should be given the opportunity to take control or dominion of its own affairs.
Of course.
Ghana, since independence, has become one of the most advanced economies in Africa. We have certainly one of the best democracies. I will even say one of the best democracies in the world, with the rule of law playing a key role in the political dispensation of the country. We have undergone a lot of developments in terms of our economy, in terms of education, in terms of agriculture, in terms of even diplomatic relations. We now have a lot of diplomatic relations with a good number of countries. We have produced arguably the most successful Secretary General in the history of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, who led the UN in an impeccable manner. And to this day, his legacy still has an impact on multilateral diplomacy. So all in all, I would say that Ghana continues to be a country of hope for the continent. It continues to be a country of inspiration for the Black race. And we are hoping that going forward, we shall maintain that reputation and even take it further, and maybe even represent the renaissance that hopefully will flourish or will go across the entire African continent.
Fantastic, Mr. Manful. You've been away from home for a long time now, and I'm sure you'll have your own way of celebrating this big day tomorrow. Anything special organized under these very strange circumstances for yourself or for the embassy in that case?
Well, ordinarily, diplomatic missions have a way of acknowledging the National Day. There is usually a cocktail. We invite members of the diplomatic community. We invite maybe civil society organizations. We invite even general members of the general public who collaborate or who work with the embassy. And then there is usually a representative of the government of the host country. And, speeches are delivered, national anthems are played. And there is a celebration to commemorate the day. Unfortunately, with the ongoing pandemic, which has changed virtually everything, we cannot honor that kind of tradition. So we have decided that in order to maintain some part of the tradition of honoring the country, even from abroad, we decided to use a platform such as yours to tell the world, to tell the people of Spain about Ghana, to make them aware of our independence, the significance of our independence to Africa, to the people of Ghana, and even to our relations with Spain, and honor the heroes and the noble statesmen who fought for the liberation of Ghana, the political freedom of Ghana. Yes, so this year, this interview that I'm having with you, possibly we will do one or two other events, maybe on social media, to let the world know about the 6th of March and our Day of Independence. So it is going to be a virtual form of celebration, primarily a virtual form of celebration, which is consistent with the way things are being done now. Let's call it the new normalcy. So that's the new normal. So our independence celebration is being celebrated within the context of the new normal, which is defining the world in the midst of a pandemic.
Yeah, that's right. We've become used to virtual celebrations, as you say, and obviously, as you said at the beginning, hopefully we can get back to physical celebrations soon enough. But I wanted to take advantage of what you mentioned. The delicate COVID situation that we're living has struck the whole world over the last year. But in Ghana's sense, the data that they provided, the Ghana Health Service has provided, is quite optimistic. It's quite positive. If we compare it to Europe's situation and even America's situation, you have and obviously any death is sad. But in your figures, obviously your official figures have been far lower than those presented in first world economies such as Europe and America. So I was hoping you'd give us a sense of the situation currently in Ghana. How you've managed to control this, what strategies were implemented over the last year to control this pandemic, and being able to to keep such a low track record of unfortunate deaths in that sense.
Yeah, COVID is a pandemic, which means that basically it can't be avoided. So it is everywhere in the world now. It is in every corner where human beings are residing. And even though the situation hasn't been as dire or as severe on the African continent as it has been in Europe or North America, still the African continent hasn't been spared. More than 100,000 Africans have lost their lives to the virus, and we are still battling the coronavirus, and we are still making every effort to ensure that it doesn't spread any further. Now, it is interesting to note that experts, epidemiologists, scientists, medical experts were expecting the virus to go across Africa and to basically take a lot of lives on the continent. Luckily or fortunately, it hasn't been so. I want to believe that it has to do with the experience that we've had fighting or grappling with pandemics in the past, or even, let's say, epidemics in the past. Not too long ago, between the years 2013 and 2015, there was a serious Ebola outbreak in the western part of Africa. It affected primarily Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. And, that kind of, sub-regional, I'll say, event triggered a certain response. It triggered a certain response on the continent. And I believe that kind of experience gave us some insight into how to deal with COVID. You will agree with me that at the onset of the pandemic, a lot of African countries took very, very serious measures, particularly at their entry points, including checking the temperatures of incoming passengers, ensuring that the virus wasn't even imported. And even in spite of these efforts, initially a lot of the cases were imported from abroad. And other measures were taken, such as the quarantine measures. People were asked to stay in quarantine for a certain period of time. In Ghana, we started even testing incoming passengers at the airports for the COVID virus. This was even conditional before the airport was reopened. We didn't do a protracted lockdown like what has been done in Europe, but definitely we ensured that people coming in were not generally exposed to the public. So they were kept in quarantine. Those who were tested positive were treated almost immediately. I believe that these efforts, these initiatives, went a long way in, curbing the spread of the virus in the country and ensuring that people stayed healthy and strong. Of course, our president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, put in a lot of effort as well. Almost every week, he was addressing the nation, giving us updates on the trajectory of the virus in the country, ensuring that we abided and respected the protocols. It became a critical feature of social life in Ghana. People having to the face mask, people having to social distance, people having to wash their hands even before you go into a supermarket or you go into a shop of any kind or even a pharmacy. They're expected to use the hand sanitizers, check your temperature before you go in. There were shutdowns, schools were closed down, public places were also asked to shut down. So these measures, I would say, preventative measures were adopted at a very, very early stage to ensure that the pandemic didn't grow. Luckily, Ghana has become the also first country to receive the COVID vaccines under the COVAX initiative, which has even elevated our struggle against or our fight against the pandemic. It is now a lot of people are being vaccinated on a daily basis, and I'm very, very confident that within a very short period of time, this will also will reflect in the number of cases that we are recording and the number of fatalities that the country is registering under the COVID pandemic. So I believe that the government is to be commended. Very, very serious steps were taken from the very, very initial stage of the pandemic. It was never treated as a mild or as a harmless virus. It was seen for what it was, a very dangerous virus that could kill a lot of people. And it informed our rather, I would say, appropriate and adequate response in terms of combating it and ensuring that it had a minimal effect on the general population.
I mean, you said at the beginning, you've African countries in the end. Well, this just proves that experts are just as experts as anyone who has studies, but in the end, what brings us forward is the experience. And as you said at the beginning, your colleagues, your fellow countries in the African continent are used to, or have unfortunately been used to, suffer different pandemics, different diseases, and this obviously has put you in the forefront of organizing these type of issues, and I think that is one of the big differences in your case, as you said at the beginning, between you and if I compare with European countries, they had the lockdown put in place, but unfortunately no measures were put in place to control the entry, control the exit of the country, and that has obviously caused very sad figures in the European continent. You mentioned the COVAX initiative. Yes, I'm aware that your country was actually the first in the world, if I'm not mistaken, to receive the COVAX initiative. If I'm not mistaken, your president a few days ago was vaccinated.
Yes.
And I commend that. I think it's, you're at the forefront of this, and it's important that the government be vaccinated to be able to carry out the right management of this pandemic, to be able to continue with their work and be protected, because in the end you are at the forefront, as well as all the doctors and all the security members. And you said that your country is your population is undergoing vaccination. What is in plan for the majority of the population? When do you estimate the majority of the population will be vaccinated? And as a pioneer of the COVAX initiative, do you think this will increase confidence for travelers to come to Ghana this year, and boost tourism again, which has been obviously in a standstill for quite some time?
In fact, the vaccination, I believe, started on the 1st of March. And indeed, the president of the Republic of Ghana, I think, was the first person to be vaccinated under the COVAX initiative. And it is ongoing. And we anticipate that by June or early summer, the entire population of Ghana will be vaccinated.
Wow.
And that is the plan. The aim is to vaccinate every single Ghanaian. So definitely, we are hoping that this will, allay people's fears with regard to visiting Ghana, with regard to the possibility of being contaminated when you travel to Ghana. Mm-hmm. Tourism obviously plays a very key role in the development of our economy. And before the pandemic, we were doing very well in that regard. In the year 2019, we had the Year of Return Initiative. The Year of Return Initiative, which back 400 years since the beginning of the slave trade. And Ghana is an integral country when it comes to the narrative on the slave trade. A lot of the slaves in the New World were taken from Ghana and were taken from West Africa through Ghana. And so the Year of Return was a way of commemorating that particular event. And it was a huge success. I mean, we were able to receive a lot of Black people in the diaspora who came to Ghana to reconnect with their roots. And we were going to sustain that process with the Beyond the Return Initiative. And unfortunately, we had the pandemic, which affected that whole exercise. So we are hoping to revive it. We are hoping to revive it once things normalize. And once the rate of infections go down, not only in Ghana, but around the world. And one other thing that I wanted to mention was that, the way Africa has even handled the pandemic is an illustration of the fact that the continent is now on the rise. And that, we draw a lot of conclusions about Africa which are erroneous. There are more stable countries than the rest of the world realizes in Africa. There is more organization, better healthcare sectors, more experts, more better institutional frameworks, which usually are lost on the Western media or which usually are overlooked. But because these institutions are in place and because there are more developed countries in Africa than the rest of the world realizes, it has accounted in part for our ability to manage this pandemic or this crisis better than most people were expecting. So it shows that the continent is not to be underestimated anymore. There is a lot more to the African continent than people are willing to recognize or even acknowledge. And Ghana certainly is at the forefront of all of this. So I am confident that by summer, a lot of these things would have more or less, the pandemic will be on the decline, not only in Ghana, but around the world. And a variety of activities will be restored. Economies will go back to flourishing. Tourism will be restored around the world. Trade, even social interaction. We should be able to go back to shaking hands, hugging people, and doing the things that show human compassion. Those habits and traits which we've had to abandon because of this deadly virus. So I'm optimistic, and I'm happy with what is happening in Ghana, and I think it's a good sign of things to come.
You mentioned you've mentioned that Ghana and African countries have proven their worth, especially in this last year with the pandemic, and proven that they're capable of dealing with anything in that sense. And I want to shift this towards diplomatic relations. International diplomatic relations today in this globalized world are very important, especially for countries such as Ghana, which is close to the Sahara area. Have Ghana authorities resumed their travel to reestablish these diplomatic relations? And how did the first wave of the COVID really affect the country's official and diplomatic travels in that sense? Because I'm sensing from what you've said, you've already noticed, or at least your countries have already started noticing the shift in the world towards African countries and the mentality towards African countries. So I'm very interested in seeing how these diplomatic relations have evolved in this last year.
Well, the struggle against any kind of global crisis takes a multilateral sort of shape. Right? Countries can't face some of these crises alone. So it takes a group of states, a group of countries to come together, adopt the kind of policies that put us all in a better position to address some of these global crises. And definitely the sub-region in Africa, that is the West African sub-region, similar measures were adopted. And even though travels to the Western world were suspended, in part not necessarily even because of policies from back home, but even because of policies that were originating from Europe. There were travel bans and travel restrictions which are still in place that don't allow passengers or travelers to travel to Europe from Africa unless it's for a very long stay. So these policies affected even the ability of our officials to travel. But since countries started opening up, the travels have mostly been on the African continent or within the sub-region. And periodically there might be a trip or there might be an official travel outside of Africa, but it's very rare. It's very, very rare. Most of them have been localized within the sub-region or on the continent. We are hoping that the travel restrictions that are currently in place in Europe will be lifted now that there are vaccines in some African countries, and we are hoping that some of these travel restrictions will be lifted to enable travelers and passengers come to Europe from Africa. It is something that actually goes against the attempt to revive the global tourism industry. So, of course, there is also some logic behind it. There's a lot of logic behind it, because it's a way of curbing the spread of the virus. So, we are hoping that with the introduction of vaccines, the situation will improve so that international travel will be restored to its normal level.
You mentioned tourism and hopefully being able to regenerate it and rebuild it. What and in the case of Ghana, you said at the beginning, tourism is a very key activity for your country. It brings in a lot of, to put it in a way, a lot of wealth in that sense. And in your case, you have two World Heritage sites, very famous. You have the Ashanti buildings, and you have even the Volta fortifications. With facing the vaccination of your whole population, what are you doing, or what are you planning on doing to boost tourism back to Ghana? What are the actions being taken place to rebuild it? How can we regenerate it from Europe? And I know you have very close ties. You have a very good relationship, obviously, in Spain, but you're close to the UNWTO in Madrid. So you're very close to a lot of countries in that sense. A lot of embassies in Madrid are located there. So what are you all doing? You said at the beginning, people's perspectives on Africa have to change, especially seeing how you've managed so well the pandemic. What can we do to rebuild tourism, and not only rebuild it, but also boost that perspective towards African countries, especially Ghana in this case?
Yes, we, like you pointed out, we are accredited to the United Nations World Tourism Organization. We intend to play an active role within the organization to draw lessons from our partners in the organization. I believe that even later this year in Barcelona, there is going to be a world tourism program, which will bring together a number of countries, and basically the gathering will deliberate on how to revive the tourism industry post-COVID. Mm-hmm. And we intend to partake in such events, in such global summits, so that we can also draw lessons from our partners with regard to what the world is doing to revive the tourism sector after the pandemic. We are looking forward to participating in even some of the events that might take part in Madrid, like the FITU. Mm-hmm. I believe that for now anyway, it has been earmarked for the month of May.
Yes.
And last year we worked very, very well with your outfit. We had a very good working relationship, and we hope to maintain that kind of working relationship going forward, particularly the Ghana mission in Madrid. And when it comes to events like FITU, we hope that we can continue to collaborate with you to make our participation in those events a success. So that is one thing that we are doing. Our diplomatic missions definitely will also play a key role in letting the world know that it's now safe and okay to travel to Ghana, and to basically go there for relaxation, for expeditions and for excursions and so on and so forth. So I think that is for now the plan, to take part in international conferences, international events that seek to revive the tourism industry after the pandemic.
And do you currently, because you said at the beginning, when the pandemic broke, you were testing everyone that was coming in, and everyone that was testing positive was put into quarantine, isolated from the rest of the population. Is that measure still in place, or have things changed? And if so, how can I, as a traveler, the day tomorrow, for example, where can I find information on how I can go to Ghana? What would be the restrictions for me to go to Ghana, and kind of how can we help the tourist have a sense of transparency when traveling, and having because there are so many rules put in place around the whole world, so many different restrictions. Even in Spain, very well, it's very confusing. Every different area has different restrictions. So we're trying, and you said at the beginning, so you said before, we've helped you in the past with FITUR. We've helped organize your delegation, your diplomatic missions, travel to Madrid in that sense. But now we're aiming to kind of help the whole tourism sector, and we would like to, be able to offer that transparency to not just governmental travelers, but also the normal tourist in that sense.
Yeah. Basically, like you said correctly, part of the process of creating publicity and attracting even foreigners to the country is to work with institutions such as your own, to create awareness about the country. You asked about whether we are still testing passengers. Definitely. I mean, the pandemic is far from over. There is still a lot of work to be done. So before you travel to Ghana, not only do you do the COVID test, which is a requirement anyway for a lot of the airlines that are going to Ghana. You have to be tested 72 hours before you actually board the airplane. And upon arrival, you are tested again at the airport before you are granted access to the country. So that is one thing that you need to know.
Okay.
And some of the preparations that one needs to do in anticipation of the testing at the airport has to be done even before you board the airplane. It doesn't matter where you are coming from in the world. And and with regard to, like you said, what it is that we intend to do to revive the industry, I believe that our diplomatic missions especially will play a key role in that, in making the world aware of what is the situation that is improving in the country, and basically doing marketing and public relations work on behalf of the country as diplomatic missions. And like I said, if hopefully there is a feature this year, we are counting on you as an outfit that we can work with extensively. The last time we worked together, it was very, very successful. You helped us with the accommodation for the visiting ministers, for members of the delegation, and even in some cases, even providing vehicles for their movement around the city. So we are hoping that if there is a feature this year, that kind of collaboration will still be forthcoming.
Minister, you can count on it for sure. We'd be happy to help you again. We'd be happy to collaborate with you continuously, and that's our mission. We're focused on helping you, helping your fellow colleagues, even your fellow continent countries with their travel. We know how difficult it is for you to find decent travel options when you come, not only to Spain but any other countries in Europe. So please do count on us, and we hope we can continue to help you and obviously other countries from the African continent in that sense. But I'd like to thank you from Tourism Optimizer platform. I'd like to thank you for your time today, for giving us the opportunity to interview you, to understand a little bit more about Ghana's situation, the country itself, its history as well, which is fascinating. And I definitely hope I myself, my wife, and hopefully when she's a little bit older, we can come and visit your beautiful country. It's definitely a continent that I'm still haven't been able to step in, and I'm hopefully will be able to step into it soon, once we are allowed to travel, at least here in Spain, allowed to leave the country and hopefully visit, in that sense, Ghana. So I'd like to thank you for your time. I think we've come to the end of our interview, and I'd definitely love to thank you for your transparency in all the details that you've given us about Ghana, your country, what you're doing for it, from your diplomatic mission in Spain, and what you're going to do for it in the near future.
Yes, thank you too. Let me also take the opportunity to thank you as well for even agreeing to interview me and for offering us this platform on a special day like our Independence Day that we'll be celebrating tomorrow. Like I said, I'm hoping that we can work together as we prepare ourselves for a post-COVID global environment. So once again, thank you very much. My regards to all your colleagues, and let's stay in touch.
Of course, Minister Manful, have a great day and happy National Day.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.